Hello, scholars. I hope that you're ready for our chapter today in our Read Aloud Rump by Liesl Shurtliff. We're already on chapter 24, which is titled, Where There's a Will, There's No Way. Let's remind ourselves what we read last week. He was with the wool witches, who were actually his aunts. And it was called Growing Crazy. So I think that now that Rump has been nourished enough and the wool witches have given him so much food that he's finally growing. And so he was really excited about that. But he also heard that that Queen Opal was expecting her first baby, which obviously is going to bring Rump some problems. So he's running away again. It's called Chapter 24, Where There Is a Will, There's No Way. I decided I wouldn't have to leave right away. Babies take a long time to be born, almost a year, so I could wait. As the summer heat cooled and the leaves began to turn yellow and orange and red, my aunts traveled to the markets in turn. They traded their yarns and cloth and tapestries for grain and potatoes and carrots and onions. Ida came back with a bushel of apples and a pot of honey, which Hadel thought was very foolish. But even she couldn't hide her delight at eating apple pies and hot biscuits drizzled with honey. I licked my lips at the sight of all the food stacked in piles for winter. I thought I had time to stay through the winter. One morning, when the first frost appeared, Hadel asked me to help her with a chore. She rarely even spoke to me, so I found it strange that she would ask for my help. But the chore she wanted to help with was even stranger. It's time to move the pixie nests. Pixie nests? Move them? Want to get pixies out just before they're ready to sleep for the winter, so they're too tired to move back. Why don't you just move them when they're sleeping? Have you ever woke a pixie from their sleep? Foolish thing to do. We move them while they're tired but not sleeping. I watched as Hadel hobbled around and picked up what looked like nothing more than a decaying log. But when she brought it close, I peeked inside and saw a swarm of pixies crawling around, 100 at least. They yawned and cuddled against each other or wrapped themselves in leaves, feathers, and bits of wool. They didn't seem to notice or care that they were being carried off. If only I had known about this before, I could have moved all the pixies far away from the cottage and the mines. Spring on the mountain would have been a much more pleasant time. Hold this, said Hadel. I will gather others, and you will follow me to where we leave them. She placed the nest gently in my arms and hobbled off to gather other nests. She picked up a bundle of twigs and grass and reached up into the branches of a tree and brought down a tangled mess. This one looked like a bird's nest, only woven completely shut in a delicate sphere. Another nest was made of leaves and twigs that hung like a basket from a tree. She cradled the nests in her apron. I looked down in the log nest in my arms. A pixie had fluttered sleepily to the opening. It chirped and sniffed like a squirrel searching for food. It fluttered its wings and landed on my hand. Oh no, another came and another until half the nest had risen from their sleepy stupor and were crawling up and down my arms and head, chirping and squeaking. One pixie with bright orange hair crawled down my nose, wrapped his hands around my nostrils, and looked inside. His wings tickled my nose. I sneezed, and all the pixies shrieked and swarmed around me. Soon they settled again and continued their exploration. Hadel came around a tree and froze at the sight of me. I think it would have been better to wait until they were asleep, I said. Stay still, she hissed. I am. Don't move. I'm not. Stop talking. I shut my mouth. With one hand, Hadel untied her apron and gently placed the nest on the ground. She took a bucket and filled it with dirt and walked slowly toward me. I'm going to pour this on you, but don't move until I say. Understand? Don't answer. Don't move. Don't even blink. Of course I needed to blink. My eyes burned and my nose started to itch. I think I needed to sneeze again. And now my eyes were watering. Hadel walked slowly toward me, painfully slow. Tears ran down my cheeks and pixies swarmed on my face. The sneeze was burning in my nose. I tried to hold it in, but it only made it worse. I exploded. Achoo! Hadel pounced on me and flipped the bucket on top of me. The dirt poured down my head and face and arms. The pixies scattered and screamed. Hadel took their nest and pulled out bits of wool and leaves and made a trail for them, leading the pixies away from me to the hollow log. Slowly, the pixies calmed, gathered their bedding, and flew back into the nest. As soon as the pixies had settled, Hadel hobbled to me, her wide eye boring into mine. Has that ever happened before? Of course it had happened before. Pixies were always pestering me. But Hadel already suspected that something wasn't right with me, and I wasn't about to give her any more reason to think so. No, I said. Pixies usually hate me. Do they? She seemed amused. Pixies have always been abundant here. They like shiny things, pretty things, but their numbers seem to be even greater since you arrived. Like they smell what they really love. Gold. Gold, I said, as though I had never heard of this before. Yes, gold. They can smell it from far away, and deep down in the earth, they smell it like a wolf smells blood. Robert. She lowered her one big eye right level with mine. My heart was beating very hard in my chest, so I could hear it pounding in my ears. My name isn't Robert, I said quietly. My mother. She didn't even get to say my whole name before she died. No one ever heard all of it, you see. The only part she said was Rump. I laughed nervously, but Hadel didn't. She only widened her big eye. She knew the name, what the name was really supposed to be. Tears burned in my eyes. I didn't want to cry, not now in front of Hadel. I held my breath until the burning stopped. So, spun, have you? asked Hadel. Her voice was a little softer now. I nodded. Spun yourself into trouble? Oh, my friend's granny told me that there was a way to get out of it. She said I needed a stiltskin. A stiltskin, mused Hadel. Yes, I've heard of them. Very rare, mysterious magic. I've never seen one, but yes, maybe. Still, even with a stiltskin, it would be difficult. Is there anything else? Is there any other help for it? Hadel put her knobby hand on my shoulder and pressed down. There's only one thing I know for sure about spinning. I waited, my whole chest expanding with hope. When you get your wool tangled in a knot, only the tangler can get it untangled. And with that, she scooped up her apron of pixie nest and hobbled away. She did not ask me to help. Is something wrong, Robert? You look pale. Ida brushed her hands on my cheek. You didn't eat. Are you ill? Just tired. Too tired to eat? Hadel glanced up at me, but didn't say anything. She didn't tell Ida or Bathilda about my name, and somehow this made me feel more hopeless, as if there was no need to explain because there was nothing they could do. Ida sent me to bed early, but no sleep came. I waited for my aunts to settle in, and once I heard their even breathing and snores, I crept into the wool room with a handful of straw. The spinning wheel shone in a silver of moonlight. I sat down. It was just a bunch of wool. In my hands was straw. Straw and wood, plain and totally unmagical. I tried to feel the magic in the air. I lifted my hands and closed my eyes and pictured pushing all the magic away, back into the earth or the sun or wherever it came from. Straw, straw, gold is gold. This straw I hold won't turn to gold. I started pushing down on the treadle, and I fed the straw through the wheel. Straw is straw, gold is gold. The straw turned to gold. I broke off the strand of gold and wrapped it around my finger. I tried again. Straw, 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 gold. I ripped off the thread and crushed it into a tiny ball. I will not let this rumple overpower me. But by my feet was Hadel's wool basket. I took a handful of wool. Maybe straw always turned to gold, but I could spin wool without magic. Wool is dull, wool is old. No dull wool can shine like gold. I spun with raging speed. If I was fast enough, maybe the magic wouldn't have time to work. I saw a gray strand emerge from the wheel. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't changing. Then the dull gray lightened and shimmered. And then before my very eyes, it transformed into a thick, shining thread. stretched tight over the wheel. Gold. There were rocks in my throat. I broke the thread off quickly and jumped away from the wheel, like somehow I had infected it with my curse. I went back to bed with the gold threads wound tightly around my finger, making it numb and tingly. I thought of my mother, holding me at birth, whispering my name in my ear. Rump. Trapped, tangled, ensnared. But why? Why would a mother who loved her child bestow such a fate upon him? I wanted there to be more, another explanation, but the more I thought about it, the more trapped and tangled I felt, and I knew that there was nothing more, only the cruel echo of my name. Rumple, rumple, rumple. All right, scholars, so that is chapter 24. Chapter 25 is called Warnings from Red, and we'll probably do 25 and 26 tomorrow because it looks like the chapters are getting shorter. All right, have an amazing weekend, and I will be back to you on Monday with more Rump by Liesl Shurtliff. Have a great weekend.